Say it with me together. Nana Shastra Vicharanaika Nipuno Sadharma Samstapako Lokanam Hitakarino Tribhuvane O Radha Krishna Padaravinda Bhajana Nande Namataliko Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyugo Shri Jiva Gopalako Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyugo Shri Jiva Gopalako. In the translation, I offer my respectful obeisances unto the six Goswamis, namely Shri Rupa Goswami, Shri Sanatan Goswami, Shri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Shri Raghunath Das Goswami, Shri Jiva Goswami, and Shri Gop, scrutinizingly studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus they are honored all over the three worlds, and they are worth taking shelter of because they are absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Radha and Krishna. Srila Rupa Goswami pronouns mantra. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam. The translation, when will Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada was established within this material world, the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet. So we can go ahead with the invocation for the Shastra. You can say with me, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So you can read with me and try your best with text number 10, the Nectar of Instruction, Sri Upadeshamrita. And the verses as follows. Kadmi bhya parito hare priyataya vyaktim ya ujjaninas. I'll say that again. Kadmi bhya parito hare priyataya vyaktim ya ujjaninas. Tebhyo jnana vimukta bhakti parama premaika nistas tataha. Tebhyasta pashupala pankaja drisastabhyo pisaradika presta tatvadhiyam tadiya sadasi tam nashrayat kahakriti. And the translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Brhat Swami Srila Prabhupada. And the translation is as follows. In the Shastra, it is said that of all types of fruitive workers, he who is advanced in knowledge of the higher values of life is favored by the Supreme Lord Hari. Out of many Gyanis, one who is practically liberated by virtue of his knowledge may take to devotional service. He is superior to the others. However, one who has actually attained prema, pure love of Krishna, is superior to him. The gopis are exalted above all the advanced devotees because they are always totally dependent upon Sri Krishna, the transcendental cowherd boy. Among the gopis, Srimati Radharani is the most dear to Krishna. A Kund lake is as profoundly dear to Lord Krishna as this most beloved of the gopis. Who then will not reside at Radhakund and in a spiritual body surcharged with ecstatic devotional feelings, aprakrita bhava, render loving service to the divine couple, Shri Shri Radha Govinda, who perform the Ashtakaliya Leela, the eternal eightfold daily pastimes. Indeed, those who execute devotional service on the banks of Radhakund are the most fortunate people in the universe. Om Jnana Timidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam jena bhutale swayam rupa kadamayam tadati swapadantikam vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanabhyo vaishnavabhyo namo namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi. In text number 9, it was discussing, you could say in one sense, places. Places indicates Radhakund is the quintessence, which is the essence of Govardhan Hill area, and Govardhan Hill is the essence. Mandala is the essence of the entire Vaikuntha region or the spiritual sky. Here in text number 10, it's discussing the hierarchy in one sense of the eternal associates of the Lord and also the different types of human beings who also may not necessarily be devotees. See? So in paragraphs 1 all the way to paragraph 5 leading into 6, there is this kind of hierarchy that is discussed, and then the rest of the paragraphs discuss the eternal associates of the Lord in various ways. To come onto the screen from Krishna Prema Pradayaka Prabhu, then we can look at it carefully as an overview of these 6 first paragraphs. So we'll start with K, which is right at the bottom, and I've put it into colors so you could say, identify with what we are discussing. So the Sanskrit terms are there, it's also in the purport. The V karmis indicates in K, right at the bottom, persons acting without guidance of the Vedic knowledge. That means they are involved in unrestricted sense gratification, and they really do not care whether there's God or not. In other words, they're not really interested in the law of action and reaction or karmas. And above them, which is a better human being, is the karmis, which means we're fruitive workers. And they generally may Vedas, which indicates worshipping the demigods for, you could say, enjoyment in this material world, fruitive by nature, enjoy the results of one's worship and the results of one's work, karmis. Then above the karmis, which is in black still, jnani. So the jnani is a personality that feels that I have nothing to do with any material activities. So therefore he may stop work and just engage in, you could say, philosophically having views about knowledge itself. Jnani means one who is interested more in just knowledge and philosophizing about it, and sometimes speculative. And above them is the beginning devotee, which we discussed in text number 5, Kanishta Adhikari, a neophyte devotee. And above the neophyte devotee, which is now is a maroonish color on the screen, is the intermediate devotee or the preacher devotee, Madhyama Adhikari. And above the Madhyama Adhikari is the Uttama Adhikari or the experienced preacher devotee and a highly advanced devotee. And above that particular personality within this world is the eternal associates in Vaikuntha. And we have discussed some of the associates later on, we'll discuss in that sense. What we discussed in Vaikuntha is that famous personality was also an acharya in our disciplic succession named Srila Narada Muni. Then there's the eternal associates in Mathura Mandala, like Devaki and Vasudeva. Then there's the eternal associates in Vrindavan, which we discussed yesterday are all the gopis. Then there's the eternal associates at Govardhan, which is the gopi friends just of Srimati Radharani. Then there's the eternal gopi associates in Radhakund, which is the very close friends of Srimati Radharani, of whom Srimati Radharani is the topmost gopi. So this is discussed in those first 6 paragraphs in that sense. Then if we go to next slide, 83, it gives a nice purport from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila chapter 15, text 106. Where Srila Prabhupada says that the neophyte devotee is superior. And I'll read. It is thus concluded that even a neophyte devotee is superior to the karmis and jnanis because neophyte devotee means a beginning devotee, beginning to practice Krishna consciousness. So I'm reading on. A karmi or a jnani regardless of his greatness, has no faith in Lord Vishnu, his holy name, or his devotional service. One may be advanced religiously, but if he is not trained in devotional service, advanced religiously indicates that one may be a good Christian, a good Muslim, a good Jew, or a good Hindu, or a good Buddhist, or a good atheist, or an agnostic. So one may be advanced religiously, I'm continuing to read, but if he is not trained in devotional service, he has very little credit on the transcendental platform. Even a neophyte devotee engaged in deity worship, in accordance with the regulations set forth by the spiritual master, is in a position superior to that of the fruitive worker and the speculative philosopher. So these are the different, you could say, hierarchy of the associates of the Lord as well as devotees, as well as the different types of human beings. We can go back to the previous slide, 82. So here we are again. Vikarmis to karmis to jnanis, to the different types of devotees within sadhana bhakti, bhava bhakti and prema bhakti in that way also. Then the associates in the spiritual sky, Vaikuntha, then in Mathura Mandala, Vrindavan, Govardhan, and at Radha Kund, of which Srimati Radharani is the topmost devotee because she knows how to serve and love Krishna the best. So I'm going to move on and discuss this particular verse. If you look at the translation of the actual verse, which I'm going to refer to now. And I'm going to read one part there, which is towards the end of the translation. Who then will not reside at Radha Kund and in a spiritual body, such as with ecstatic and devotional feelings, aprakrita bhav, render loving service to the divine couple, Shri Shri Radha Govinda, who perform the Astakaliya Lila, the eternal eightfold daily pastimes. So yeah, the right person who can actually reside at Radha Kund is not living in the material world, because the spiritual, the body which was once material is now completely spiritual. And we have given the example previously of how an iron rod, if it associates with fire intensely, it takes the function and property and can act as good as fire. So suddenly, if one's body is associating with fire, then that is the spiritual body, which is sort of mentioned in the purport here. And it's called aprakrita bhav. In other words, the devotional feelings are so ecstatic that even if one tiger comes near you, you don't know that the tiger is there, because Krishna will protect you without you knowing it, that Krishna is protecting. And there are many tigers, even, that live around Radha Kund, even today. See? So it's not that one cannot aspire to be there, that's one thing. But the actual, you could say, adhikar is that one doesn't know that one has ecstatic feelings, but one simply goes there. See? And one is completely free for even considering to think of offending any devotees in any stage of devotional service and any residents of the Dham, and any residents of the Dham. See? So I'll give you kind of two examples of such a personality. You know, Raghunath Das Goswami, who actually has his samadhi there, and also his eternal nocturnal kirtans, 24 hours, day and night, goes on in his samadhi on the banks of Radha. So, Raghunath Das Goswami, on, one occasion, was sitting in the hot sun, and Srimati Radharani came along without Raghunath Das Goswami knowing, and she lifted a veil so that the sun, you could say sunshine, which is so dense in the summer and practically can burn in a way, she filtered that sunshine through her veil. But Raghunath Das Goswami did not know anything. See? So one was that in Bhava Bhakti doesn't know that the eternal associates of the Lord are also always nearby. See? Another time, another of the Goswamis, from the 6 Goswamis, it was probably Sanatana Goswami or Rupa Goswami, when they come into the area of Radha Kund, one wild tiger was, coming around. And then Krishna appeared, Shama Sundar appeared. And Shyamasundar is the super soul, unknowing to Shyamasundar, in the heart of the tiger. And the tiger really simply, you could say in one sense, because Krishna was protecting the Goswami. So in one sense, the tiger immediately realized, no, this is Krishna's devotee, and I'm also Krishna's devotee, and actually offered obeisances from a distance to either Rupa Goswami or Sanatana Goswami and went off. They are completely oblivious of their surroundings. They are only internally placed within the Astaka Liya Lila, within the eightfold pastimes. You know, in other words, there are 8 periods between the day and night of the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. See? I'm just trying to explain to you theoretically this, eligibility to reside in Radha. And at the same time, to reside in Radhakund, one must be in the line of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Otherwise, Radhakund is not the superior, highest within the Gaudiya Vaishnava line. One must be following the line of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu in the Chaitanya Charitamrita in the Madhya Lila chapter 19, especially from text 183 to 184 in the purport. Now, Srila Prabhupada explains how that when one gradually increases one's service mood, there'll be a gradual decrease in the sense of the opulent feature or the majesty of and the royalty, like in Vaikuntha, that will gradually decrease when one gradually increases one's service mood. So then Srila Prabhupada have us understand of each rasa, especially in relationship to the devotees and coming to the the Gopi associates of the Lord, of which Srimati Radharani is the topmost. So Srila Prabhupada says that when one is completely freed from all doubts, which is practically text 1 to text number 7, in the Nectar of Instruction, and then one can come to the position of being peaceful internally. See? That means us. If one is freed from all doubts and material attachment, then one becomes peaceful internally. And that state is called Shanta. Shanta means peace. See? From that platform of the Shanta Rati, when one is feeling peaceful naturally, realization of Krishna, then this is the stage of neutrality, Shanta Ras. One may feel peaceful because one may not have any material attachment and is free from all doubts. And one may gradually become attached to the personal form of Krishna. And the first feature in this neutrality or Shanta Ras with Krishna is that one becomes, you could say, appreciative of the greatness of Krishna. And also in other schools of and thoughts and practices of religiosity, one always says, God is great, God is great. Because if God is great, then one feels peaceful and one appreciates the greatness of God. So this kind of attachment in this stage, one can also feel the presence of the Lord within, which is called Paramatma. And that is the stage of neutrality or Shantaras. It feels that the Lord is with me all the time. See? And mostly persons feel that intuitively. See? And then one can actually understand that, I'm sort of eager now from this stage of neutrality and recognizing the greatness of God, of God that is within my heart. Then one hankers for relationships. One hankers for relationships. So the beginning stage is actually for all of us that one must become peaceful internally, free from material attachments, and also free from all doubts. One has fixed, firm faith in Krishna conscious practices. Then one hankers for some relationship. And that relationship that one hankers is that when the Lord is as Paramatma within the heart, and then one is self-realized that I can realize the Paramatma, then one can understand, look, the Lord is great and I am subordinate. Then not only one surrenders to Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but due to his subordinate position to the Paramatma as well as the Supreme Lord, one desires to render some service and become favored by the mercy of Krishna. And that is called Dasya Ras. Dasya means to render service. See? So a devotee in Shanta Ras sometimes may be attached to feeling peaceful, feeling I'm peaceful, like that. And at that time, he may have a little willingness to render service. But when that willingness appreciates in its value, and the devotee wants to immediately render voluntarily service to the Supreme Lord. So that is called Dasya. And due to this attitude in Dasya Ras to serve the Lord, then the Supreme Personality of God, it becomes more fully realized by the devotee to serve, considers Krishna to be his worshipable object of service, and therefore one's attachment gradually increases in that sense. So therefore, in one sense, when you see Shantara's peacefulness, it is not material, and it cannot be entirely fully spiritual. But when it comes to Dasyaras or serving, one is actually on the spiritual platform. And in that way, when you start serving, you won't have an inclination to even go back to material attachments. See? So therefore, a devotee in Dasyaras has no attachment other than Krishna's service, serving Krishna. And serving Krishna indicates in our sadhana bhakti, we serve the devotees, we serve the deities, we serve by chanting the holy names, and we serve by only honoring Krishna Prasad. So this is all service, devotional service in that Dasyaras. Now, in that sense, when one's service deepens in relationship to Radha and Krishna, and even a sense can deepen in relationship amongst devotees. So we'll take the practical side of devotees. So one may serve with devotees, and in the beginning stages, one may serve as a subordinate to a senior devotee. But as one serves other devotees, those devotees also make you come closer to them by a reverential friendship, because you're making spiritual advancement. And reverential friendship is the beginning of Sakya Ras. Sakya means to be friends. See? So there's a deeper relationship in this Dasya. So in a similar way, just as we associate for relationship with Radha and Krishna, and it is already a given that you have no material attachments. See? So this is called Sakya Ras. And the Sakya Ras, that the devotee sometimes, may treat the Lord on an equal level. See? Just like, one devotee friend to another, and if it's in Sakya Ras, and you'll tell, your devotee friend, hey, eat more. Come on, just take more, little more. And you'll even put it on the plate, like that. But 5 years ago, that devotee that you're serving now, you were in Dasya Ras because you have been in the beginning stages of Krishna consciousness and he was helping you, And when you serve him in the beginning stages 5 years ago, he will tell you, look, no more. And you'll say, okay. But when you get a closer relation, eat more, take more, and you put it on the plate. More, I put it in the plate, I got more marks. So that kind of feeling also comes for Radha and Krishna, in that is called Sakya Ras. I'm just trying to relate how you can relate to devotees first, and then you can relate to Radha and Krishna. Because if you don't relate to devotees like that first, there's no possibility of relating to Radha and Krishna, even in Sakya Ras. See? Then, sometimes in Vatsalya Bhav, so when that goes, then what happens is that you become more possessive. In other words, the devotee that you're friendly with, you try to sort of own that devotee, possessive, transcendentally possessive. And you kind of get this relationship sometimes even with the spiritual master, or even with senior devotees, even with sannyasis. One may get this like fatherly feeling. I want to protect you. And one may get this motherly feeling. You're not eating so well. You look so weak. You have to get your health together. So that's called Vatsalya Rati, like a parental situation. You may even have it for your initiating spiritual master, for your instructing spiritual master. So in a superior position, but still a better servant. I want to serve you more as a mother or father would serve the children. Well, mother and father will serve grown-up adult children. I want to take care of you. See, I want to get the best vegetables to cook for you so that, you will relish it. And I'll give you what you like and what you like to eat, your favorite dishes, ourselves, so that you can understand that you can get some experience amongst devotees that can relate to Krishna and his eternal associates in that way. Okay. Now, in the Madhurya relationship, which is even more deeper, like that, and that's a relationship between Krishna and the gopis in Vrajabhumi. See? In the Madhurya relationship, that is really not there amongst the devotees in a sense within sadhana bhakti. See? But the sense of having a deepness of love and possessing days ago that Krishna, you are mine, Radha and Krishna, you both are mine, and I am yours, and nothing can come in between. In other words, that kind of possessiveness of deep love, of service and practical services, that I will never giving up. I'll never give up serving you. In other words, I won't give up serving you, even if you're my initiating guru, or shiksha guru, or my friend. I won't give up serving you. See? Even if you refuse my service, I'll just serve in separation, but I won't give up serving you. That kind of love is unconditional, even if it's conditional from the other person. Surya Rati. It's completely free from the bodily conception of life. that I will get others to serve you even if you do not give me service, but I won't give up serving you as my prized possession of the object of my love, either directly or indirectly. So there's no conditions to that. And in that sense, the gopis possess the highest features of love. And Srila Prabhupada mentions this a little bit, that it is completely free from anything material. He mentions this very briefly. He mentions it, but it's very deep. It's very deep. This is in paragraph 7 in the purport, and then I'll explain a little bit further in paragraph 7 in the purport. Before I read that, we have to discuss our schedule. I can very easily complete text number 10 and 11 today, but at the same time, our last day may be tomorrow because we discussed the 21st, we're going to conclude on the 21st. Everyone knows that. Yeah. And I would appreciate it that if we take more questions today and less questions tomorrow, the crown jewel of all verses from this book. So we can take some questions tomorrow, but we should take more questions today. See? And for today, I will, after I take your questions from now on, I will conclude what I'm about to read and something from Srila Prabhupada. I would like to conclude with something every day, if you notice. In that sense. So I'm going to save this discussion just before we conclude for today. So we have some time now for questions in general. You could say for the next 30, 35 minutes. And then in the last, you could say 5 minutes or more, we could conclude what I was just about to discuss. So we can take more of the questions and queries. Also a very nice discussion about Radha Kund and so forth. Even bathing in Radha Kund, we're going to discuss tomorrow. So don't ask any questions about that today. Are we all right so far? Yes. So we had one outstanding question from yesterday from Anjana Gopika, if she's with us today. And then we can take other questions or comments from the other devotees. Then I'll conclude with this last reading briefly about the gopis from Srila Prabhupada and something else that Srila Prabhupada says about the gopis. Is Anjana Gopika with us today?
Yes, Maharaj.
Sure?
She's here.
So can she hear you and me?
Yeah. Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances.
Mine, all glories to Prabhupada. Tell me your question, Anjana, and keep it very precise and brief.
Yes. Maharaj, what is our mood when we hear the pastime, like especially Krishna's and Radha's pastime, Maharaj? What should our mood?
Okay. The first thing you have to do is you should chant your minimum 16 rounds daily. Then there will be some eligibility to hear the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. And the one who's speaking the pastimes of Radha and Krishna should also have chanted one's minimum 16 rounds of japa. Now, if you chant more japa, and if the speaker of Krishna's pastimes also chant more dapa, which is the chanting, rupa, guna, and lila. So that is the main thing. The more we chant, the more we can hear and enter into the pastimes. And the more the speaker chants of the pastimes, the more the audience can also enter. So it's both ways. However, when one becomes deeply attached to chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra Japa, just like Raghunath Das Goswami and Namacharya Haridas Thakur, then the pastimes themselves enter into one's heart. There's no need for somebody to speak or relate or give a lecture on the pastimes. The pastimes themselves enter into the heart. So that's our goal, to always be immersed in the pastimes of Radha and Krishna and their associates through hearing the chanting of the holy names in japa, through our personal hearing. All right, next question.
There is
next
two devotees
comment.
raised the hand. One is Prema Manjari Mataji, another one Manish Prabhu. So first is Prema Manjari Mataji.
We'll take Manish first.
Okay, sure. Manish Prabhu, you can unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandava Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Manish, and I look forward to your questions as always, because you ask nice questions, and if there's no questions, you always have questions, which is good. Tell me, Manish, come on
yes,
to the
I
screen.
am on the screen. Are you able to see me now?
Yes, I can see you.
Okay.
Good.
Maharaj, there would be, although Radha and Krishna are one, but there would be few devotees who are attracted more to Krishna and few are attracted more towards Radharani. So in that situation, when a person, maybe if he's on a, maybe on a very highest stage of bhakti service, what would be his destination? So for people, devotees who are connected more to or attracted more towards Radharani and towards Krishna, is it going to be different or how is it?
Nice questions. However, I'll give two answers to your question. One is that Srila Prabhupada said that I only asked one question to my spiritual master, His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. And Prabhupada has only one question. how can I serve you? See? So when one, and it's a very deep exchange with Srila Prabhupada and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Okay? And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gave Srila Prabhupada a whole lifetime of service, lifetime after lifetime, just by the one question. See? So in the formative stages of our Krishna conscious practices, there are two things. One is that one may be attracted or attached to a particular service. See? So one is attracted or attached to a particular service, say like I'm attracted to cooking, to book distribution, or I'm attracted to giving classes, studying Prabhupada's books and giving lectures. See? But we should know that all service, and when the needful comes to be done, one is not attracted to do the other service. Say, for example, the temple president comes and tells you that, look, I know you're attached to sitting at the reception and meeting people. The chief minister of Maharashtra is coming to our temple. And right now, you have to leave this service and this reception because the security of the chief minister is coming to take over. And right devotees to offer the chief minister and his entourage garlands. And you'll say, no. You know, I'm attached to the service. I want to be with the security and see the chief minister first at the reception. No, you have to go and make garlands. No, get somebody else. You know, I'm not inclined in making garlands. Besides, I'm anemic, you know, to flowers and I have some health issue. You make so many excuses. Maybe that's not the case. So you're attached to a particular service, but one is not attached to serving. So you're attached to serving on your terms in relation to a particular service. So one is not attached to serving in a general sense to do the needful. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada said that one may be expert in the material world in a particular field of PhD in that. Okay? But he said for devotees, expert means to do the needful. That means you should be attached to serving and not be attached to a particular service. See? Now, Manish may be wondering, is that really answering my question? Is that really answering my question? The answer is a beginning yes. It's a beginning yes. See? Now the end yes. The end yes. Now this may really answer your question. That in order to serve Krishna directly, if one has some inclination to serve Krishna directly, one has to get the mercy of Srimati Radharani, who will introduce you to serve Krishna directly. And Srila Prabhupada said, in order to get the mercy of Radharani to serve Krishna, one has to get the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And in order to receive the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one has to receive mercy from Lord Nityananda. And in order to receive the mercy of Lord Nityananda, which we'll discuss tomorrow, one has to preach to people like Jagai and Madai, who are drunkards and who are the most sinful of all sinners. See? Like Jagai and Madai. And in order to preach to people like Jagai and Madai, one has to get the mercy of devotees who have already experienced in preaching to people like Jagai and Madai. So the association of devotees and Vaishnava service is most important. So not just simply in order to enter into Krishna Leela, that one should serve Krishna. First one has to serve in the Leela of ISKCON, and then preach to people to come to the International Service of Krishna Consciousness and take shelter of devotees. And then one will get the mercy of Lord Nityananda. And when one receives the mercy of Lord Nityananda, one will receive the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And when one receives the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one can enter into serving in Radha Krishna Leela. And ultimately, Radharani will arrange for you to serve Krishna. Manish, is that all right?
Yes, Maharaj. Every time you come up with wonderful examples, and it's really nice. It makes things very much simpler. So it's really nice of you. Thank you.
All right. So let's go on now here from Prema Manjari's comment or question. Prema Manjari, come onto the screen.
You said
you're hiding on the side. We can see both of you. Now tell us your question.
Maharaj, you said that the one who resides in Radhakund, he is not in a material body. He will not fear because he knows that Krishna will.
Because the person is not living, material body is completely spiritualized, just as iron rod takes the function of fire in association with fire. Then even if a tiger is nearby, he wouldn't even know it. Not fearful of the spiritual world. Okay, I'll take your question shortly. I know I'm not cutting you short. I'll take your question fully. But I want to answer this point. When one is living in the spiritual world, although in this material world, when one is living in the spiritual nature, see, there's no fearfulness and fearlessness, because you use that word in your question. To feel fearless is still part of this material world, because at one point one has the experience of feeling fearful. So there are two words, fearfulness and fearlessness. But for a person who's living in the consciousness of living in the banks, fearlessness, because that is duality, that is opposites of the material world, and that is Raghunath Das Goswami. He's completely on the absolute platform. If Raghunath Das Goswami has any fearfulness, it will only be fearfulness that, oh, I hope, Radharani will not reject me. And that kind of fear is different. That's completely on the spiritual platform. So now, Prema, let me take your question once again.
Maharaj, I am very deeply, affected by Bhakti Charu Maharaj, being hospitalized and being in a very critical condition. And he was not fear. He didn't have a fear. He was, because I saw him personally when he was leaving from our home, and I mean, he was just not even worried about, being careful with the mask and things.
Okay.
I mean, I could see that
Okay.
he's totally. Then also he had to go
Now,
through.
I would suggest one thing. See, we are discussing nectar of instruction. And Sripad Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj, or His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj, is an exalted personality. And I won't claim to be even a little advanced, but he is a highly advanced soul. See? So the circumstances is that you had nothing to do with him making a decision to go boldly and take the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and preach. You had to Maharaj when he stayed with you before he left for the US. And you discussed it with me before he even came there. I remember that. So I would humbly suggest that it is very difficult to understand the consciousness and heart of a very exalted personality like Sripad Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj. So I would say that if you have some, you could say, concern about him, the best thing is prayer. The plan of the Lord and the plan of Prabhupada and the plan of Prabhupada's devotee, Prabhupada's associate like Bhakti Charu Maharaj, ultimately the plan of the Lord reigns supreme. See? And the plan of the Lord cannot be understood by anybody because Krishna is independent and free. So Krishna may be using this incident or this situation with Sripad Bhakti Charu Maharaj to teach us all a lesson. See? Using a pure devotee to teach us a lesson. So I would suggest, speaking earlier on about fearfulness and fearlessness in the material world, they are qualities of the material world. It doesn't exist, the duality doesn't exist in the spiritual world, like I gave the example of Raghunath Das Goswami. What exists there is that I just want to serve. I just want to be Krishna conscious. And when any fear comes, it's within the Lila Shakti or pastime potency of the Lord. So therefore, I would humbly suggest to you, without without responding to your concern further, that or whatever the plan of Srila Prabhupada is for Bhakti Charu Maharaj. And if he does recover nicely, we hope and we pray that he does, and we're praying earnestly every day that he fully recovers from this. And when you meet him again, and you surely will meet him again when he fully recovers, then you can ask him your questions. Because I really do not understand the mind and the consciousness and the heart of very exalted personalities like himself. I just simply bow down to the lotus feet of please give me your mercy to become, maybe someday become, begin to become a devotee as he is, an exalted personality. So I'm sure you may have the opportunity to meet him in the future, and then you can have your discussions with him in person. Prema Manjari, is that okay? Prema
Yes,
Manjari.
Just a call, so I had to just disconnect that. Yes, I got your point.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
So let's take further comments and questions. I'm getting more time for the today in general also.
There is a question from a devotee named Niveta HK.
Nivedita.
Nivedita.
Nivedita, come onto the screen, please. Unmute yourself and speak, and you'll come onto the screen. Nivedita. I can hear you, but I cannot see you. You have to unmute the video. You unmuted maybe only audio. You have to unmute your video, and you come onto the screen. Or are you having some difficulty? Yes, I can see you now. No, okay. So now increase it, Hare Krishna, increase your volume.
Okay.
Get it close. Now,
Maharaj, I have a question about outreach programs so that we can, try to give, something from what we have learned. And what happens is we face failures and we kind of doubt ourselves. So my question is, how shall we look at it? Because in devotional life, we need to develop a taste to serve. And serving, and then we face failures. Of course, we are trying to see it as a a place where we want to have a success also. But how should we deal with the failures, and how should we go about
All
that?
right. There is no failures in Krishna consciousness. It may appear to be like a failure, but it is not. So I'm going to ask you a question, and you're going to give me an answer, and you're going to come back onto the screen so that this exchange between the two of us will help with the answer eventually. So you were saying that outreach program means you are preaching
That's
to
right.
others,
Yes.
right? And you're saying that there's no success in your methods of preaching to others.
There is some, but what happens is sometimes you kind of feel that it's pretty slow, or
Taking
maybe
too long. Okay.
the
All
recipients.
right.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, why are you preaching?
I feel it's a good way to nourish both the persons that we are trying to give the information, as well as for me, because
Okay, so there's a positiveness in it that you are learning so many new things. At the same time, you're becoming more experienced in preaching. Yes or no?
that is true.
So I'm still asking
Yes.
you the question. You're a little bit more thoughtful now. Still, why do you preach?
It would give pleasure to Guru Maharaj.
Yes. So your preaching is giving pleasure to the disciplic succession, right?
Yes.
Yes. So that's a good answer. Why else do you preach?
Because I have a lot of free time these days.
Good. Then that's good. You can use your free time. Okay. So now put me back into the screen. You have given several nice answers and practical answers. So now I'll give you the answer also. One should preach and one should go on preaching. If one preaches and if one is attached to a particular result, then one would become, you could say, unenthusiastic to go on preaching. So we should preach and not be attached to the result. The result is left up to the mercy of Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. It's not left up to us. So we don't preach to get success. We preach because it makes us someday begin to become on trying to distribute books. Because it makes us maintain our own. Someday I may begin to become a devotee. And incidentally, by the way, somebody else may get some benefit. And when they become a devotee, it's the mercy of the disciplic succession, that's all. But if you're attached to the result of your preaching for some success, Srila Prabhupada said, the fact is that we are engaged in preaching, engaging in some devotional service is more important than the result of our preaching. See? So therefore, it is important that the only wealth that we have is to engage in devotional service, and part of it is to preach. We will not give up engaging in any feature of devotional service because there's no result. No. So I'll give you an example. Just like one devotee may be making a garland, stringing flowers together for the Lord. There's no result in that. The result of the reward is the service itself of making the garland. And we know the garland is going to be adorned with, on the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna or Srimati Radharani. And we go, but the actual result in some service. And my only reward is the service itself, not the result of the service. See? So if your only result is the service itself, then or to whoever you're serving, and there's no result. So that is the most important consciousness for us, to begin to become a devotee. That my only result is that I have the result of continuing to serve. And that is my treasured wealth, that I'm given this opportunity, that I'm given this privilege to serve. So the service itself is the best result. And to continue to serve is the best result. Nivedita, is that all right for now?
Just a follow-up question, Maharaj.
Come on, okay, good.
So that is the part where we are thinking about success. Now, in case we realize that due to the preaching that I may have given to someone may have kind of felt like, oh, okay, this is not what I want to practice, or consciousness for reasons which may be, me. or anyone, like, the preacher. So how should we take that as well?
Yes,
How do we
yes.
tackle with that?
There are two aspects to this to answer your question. One is that Srila Prabhupada mentions to His Holiness Brhat Swami. I'm saying His Holiness here, although I'm initiated by him because we have a broad audience of devotees. Srila Prabhupada said to His Holiness Brhat Swami that good judgment comes from experience, and experience comes from bad judgment. You want to write it down? Good judgment comes from experience, and experience comes from bad judgment. In other words, when we preach, we may have consciousness, but that's an experience for us. So that bad judgment in our preaching will become good judgment because we have that experience. So we should go on preaching even if we make mistakes. Even if we make mistakes, we should go on preaching. Because by preaching more and more, you'll become more experienced and the mistakes will be less and less. So good judgment comes from experience, and experience comes from bad judgment. However, Srila Prabhupada gave his own example. Srila Prabhupada received the instruction from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur to preach and spread Krishna consciousness in the English-speaking language in the Western world in 1922. But Srila Prabhupada only realized that instruction in its beginning stages in 1965, which is 43 years later. No success for 43 years. And imagination. Even in a short 11 years from 1966 to 1977. And for 1 year also he was struggling from 1965 to 1966. Okay? So Srila Prabhupada said that the spiritual master's instruction may be suspended, but never ever neglected. Eventually one will execute that instruction. And even in executing the instruction of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in New York, Srila Prabhupada was not even attached to the result. And what is the result? His typewriter was stolen. His manuscripts were sort of prison, even in his like drug-crazed consciousness, he even was trying to attack and kill Srila Prabhupada in that first year of 1965 to 1966. See? But he never gave up serving, never gave up serving, even with no result, he never gave up serving the instruction of his spirit. These two examples for you for now. Nivedita, is that all right?
Thank you.
Welcome. So we can take another question or comment now.
There is two devotees raised their hand. One is Sumant Prabhu, and again Manish Prabhu also raised his
So
hand.
let's take Sumant's question now.
Okay. Sumant Prabhu, you can unmute yourself.
Yes, I can. Hare Krishna Maharaj, please
Hare
accept my
Krishna,
humble
Sumant. Tell
Oh,
me.
glory to you, Prabhupada.
Glory to
Well,
Prabhupada.
I don't really have a question as such, more just a comment. I don't know what prompted me to think of it, perhaps the last question in the interaction, wherein I thought that sometimes themselves tend to be very critical and judgmental of certain non-devotees. Of course, that's because devotees are very sincere and they only mean well. And obviously they are saying anything based on the teachings of Srila Prabhupada, no doubt there. But sometimes it just becomes a bit over. Criticism is to be extended to very, very high achievers, be it a Nelson Mandela or a Roger Federer in the field. We understand that. But his contribution is so significant that I think that it would not be very becoming on our part to heavily criticize a personality like that just for the sake of sibling succession. Of course, by doing so, if it helps our preaching, by all means. But sometimes I find people are just doing it just for the sake of doing it, and I thought that's a shame.
All right. I want to respond to what you said. Living entity.
Yeah.
That is clear for a devotee who has some living entity as a part and parcel of Radha and Krishna and service to Radha and Krishna. So the living entities in the material world, even with the likes of like Gandhi or Mandela or Mother Teresa, Gandhi is Indian-bodied, Mandela is like African-bodied, and Mother Teresa is white-bodied. They are certainly not ordinary human beings on this planet. They're certainly not ordinary. See, they have some karma, means they have like very amazing samskaras from past lives to do what they do in the present life. An ordinary human being cannot do that. See, so because they're coming from a lot of piety from previous lives, definitely an ordinary human cannot do that. However, having said that and appreciating their excellence in this world during their lifetimes, definitely their excellence is said that, we should always come to the point of also understanding the goal of eternal life. not just a temporary life from one life to another, even to the heavenly planets. See? So therefore, one time, one innocent personality asked Srila Prabhupada, I'm just trying to paraphrase, people who worship Lord Jesus Christ become attached to him, So then he said that they will go to the planet where Jesus Christ resides. And usually, Jesus Christ may reside, will follow Jesus Christ. They say either you go to heaven or to hell. So, but heaven or hell is even in the same body of the same person, consciousness. So therefore, but heaven is all planet that is beyond this earthly planet. It's like Indraloka. See? So if Jesus Christ is residing in one of these heavenly planets, and those who are attached to him will join him in that planet. See? So similarly, Nelson Mandela or Mother Teresa, a lot of service to humanity here. That's pretty clear. So they'll take a higher birth in one of those heavenly planets within the material universe. So if somebody becomes very attached to them, naturally they get a higher standard of living in the heavenly planets. That's clear. See? However, every loka, right down to Patala loka, according to the scriptures, they may be to some sense innocent in their ignorance. They're innocent in their ignorance. I'm not restricting my answer to just on these earthly planets. It's pretty small. It's tiny within this universe here. So those who are innocent in their ignorance, they can easily come to Krishna consciousness. So there's a verse, Shrinvata Sva Kata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana. So to give you an example of my own association with Nelson Mandela, I was present there when he came. And I also had a chance to speak with him. Briefly though, because he's a Matsirara in the temple. And I found that he's a man of humility. He's a man of soft-heartedness. He thinks of the welfare of all living beings in that sense. So that's a great pious credit to him.
Yeah.
And into contact with devotees. He came into contact with great devotees like His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami. He came into contact with great devotees like His Holiness Intradumna Swami. And he came into contact with great devotees. And I am sure just by associating with his devotees, and getting Mahaprasad, he even received the Paduka, the Lord's special shoes from the altar on his head, and that's going to make him a devotee even in the next life, whatever wherever the soul may be of Nelson Mandela. It's going to make him a devotee because he came into contact with Krishna consciousness somehow. See? And you get the great personality like Mother Teresa. She met His Holiness Radhanath Swami. She met devotees in Calcutta all the time. She appreciated the devotees. See? And Gandhiji got the personal association of Srila Prabhupada through letters. Prabhupada personally wrote him letters. See? So therefore, although they may be there and they may be great by estimation of this tiny planet, still they're saving grace. Whoever is attached to them, they will make them attached to Krishna and take them back to Guru.
Right.
Sumant, is that all right?
Oh, yes, Maharaj, that's splendid. We'll put in a prayer for all of them.
Yes, certainly. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay, from Manish again. We'll take this last question today and we'll conclude. Remember, we're taking more discussion tomorrow and limitations of questions. Manish,
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, mostly if we have any obstacles in our spiritual life, we pray to Nrsimhadev. But suppose if I have some spiritual desires, I've got mixed answer fulfillment of those desires. Either is it Radharani, Nityananda Prabhu or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Whom? That's what I wanted to know.
If you're running through some challenges in your practice of Krishna consciousness, the first person you should pray to is to get the association of devotees who will help you with the challenge. In other words, your challenges is not your own problem. Your challenges is also the family of devotees. It's also their issue to help you. For example, in a family, if you have a father and you're the son, your also problems to grow in Krishna consciousness becomes the father's responsibility because he's experienced. See? So therefore, the first thing you do is besides prayer, it's not, you should pray to Lord Nishingadev, definitely. You can pray to even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You can pray to Radha and Krishna. You can pray to any number of them, any number of our presiding deities in our lives. That's fine. But the main thing is to practically do something about it. Approach a devotee that you have faith and relationship in. Guyam Akyati Prichiti, and open your heart to them. That please help me with this. I want to make progress in devotional service. Manish, is that all right?
Yes, Maharaj.
All right. So now we'll take a few minutes to conclude for today with having the consciousness of the ultimate consciousness of devotional service to Krishna. So in the paragraph, which is paragraph 7, there are 9 paragraphs, which is quite short. But paragraph 7 is a little bit longer. And I'm reading, and the devotees, the gopis are recognized as superior. You're all with me if you found the paragraph, and I'm reading it. Of all these devotees, the gopis are recognized as superior because they do not know anything other than satisfying Krishna. Nor do the gopis expect any return from Krishna. Indeed, sometimes Krishna puts them into extreme suffering by separating himself from them. Nonetheless, they cannot forget Krishna. When Krishna left Vrindavan for Mathura, the gopis became most dejected and spent the rest of. This means that in one sense, they were never actually separated from Krishna. There's no difference between thinking of Krishna and associating with him. Rather, Vipralamba thinking of Krishna in separation, excel the devotional service of Srimati Radharani. Indeed, even Krishna cannot understand the attitude of Srimati Radharani. Therefore, he took her position and appeared as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, just to understand transcendental feelings. So, this is in paragraph 7. Now, as early as September 1968 in Seattle, Srila Prabhupada speaks so wonderfully in relation to this also. Srila Prabhupada and the gopis were all at home. They were simple village girls or village women. They were not even educated. They don't know any philosophy. And Srila Prabhupada said that women and girls were not even allowed to work. See? And he says that is the Vedic system. They should keep at home and they should be given for the elderly sons, whether they're in the category of a child, a daughter. And then Srila Prabhupada said they're not even meant for going out. This is way in 1968 in Seattle in the Western world. So they mostly kept themselves at home. And then Prabhupada said, but Krishna, he was miles away in the pasturing grounds. See? And the gopis were at home. Now he is walking on some rough grounds, and perhaps the particles of the stones, which is a little sharp, is maybe pricking the soles of his lotus feet. So he must be feeling some pain. See? And in this way, the gopis, when they were thinking of Krishna, Prabhupada said, they're simple, and they simply used to cry for Krishna. And Prabhupada said, just see. In fact, you can hear this lecture. I'll give you the lecture. It's a lecture on September 30th, 1968 in Seattle. If you hear Prabhupada speak. Krishna is miles away. And what Krishna is feeling? That they are simply thinking of me. Krishna is also feeling like that. It's a reciprocal consciousness, just like a mother in London and she's in Mumbai or Kuala Lumpur. And the son will feel also, my mother is feeling for me. And then Prabhupada says, this is love. This is love. And then Prabhupada says something a little opposite. But Prabhupada said, oh my dear Krishna, what have you brought for me from the pasting grounds? Oh my dear Krishna, now let me look in your pocket. What have you brought for me? Let me see. Prabhupada said, no. Simply thinking of Krishna, how will Krishna be pleased and how will Krishna be satisfied? That is how it is. This is love. Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki, Nectar of Instruction ki, Shri Upadeshamrita ki, that I go Premanande, Hari Hari Go. So I look forward to a nice association for the final day tomorrow for our text 11, and we'll take some questions and we'll conclude wonderfully for tomorrow. We have this sufficient time of an hour and a half. Hare Krishna.